Magandang umaga, Filipinas. Good morning. You're watching Eagle News Mornings from Canada. I'm Thomas I. Likeness, reporting from our Eagle News studio in the Western Canadian province of Alberta. My city is Edmonton, and we're here to bring you news from across the country. Well, it's Thursday morning. One more day to go until the weekend. Hey, I just looked out my magic window. Yeah, the one on the computer. And AccuWeather tells me it's cloudy this morning in Manila. 28 degrees out there right now. Feels like about 35, though. It's going to be another hot one. Supposed to get up to 35 today. It's going to feel like 41. Oh, find a way to stay cool. There's a chance of a thunderstorm this afternoon in Manila. The air quality rated as poor right now, so be careful if you have to go outside. Let's get that second cup of coffee now. Sit back and we'll bring you up to date with what's happening in Canada. First, we'll take a look at the weather across Canada. And our street scene today comes from downtown Toronto. This street scene was shot by my good friend and colleague, Marco Zarudo. And this is how Yonge Street in Toronto looks these days. Used to be pretty busy, not a lot of traffic now. Hopefully that will change soon, because that would mean the pandemic's over. But I think this is going to be with us for a little bit of time. So let's take a look at the weather across the country. We go over to the west coast, Vancouver and Victoria, reporting some clouds. They were around the 15-degree mark when we checked. Edmonton, sunny and up to 19. Calgary, 15. Clouds down there. Saskatoon and Regina, mostly sunny, 18 degrees. Winnipeg, a lot of sunshine, but it's a bit cooler there. Only 12 degrees. Also 12 and some clouds in Toronto. We go up to Ottawa, where it's partly sunny and 12. Montreal, just all cloud cover, 13 degrees there. Now, the Atlantic provinces generally a bit warmer today with a lot of sunshine. 13 in Fredericton and Halifax, but only got up to 5 degrees in St. John's, Newfoundland. In the news today, those 6 soldiers who died when a military helicopter crashed off the coast of Greece last week were honored at a repatriation ceremony. We'll look at how the pandemic is affecting our mental health, what we can do about it. Alberta is going to change its privacy laws on health information, and that's to protect frontliners. We'll tell you about that. Nearly 1 million people in Canada have been tested for COVID-19 now. What's school going to be like if it resumes in the fall? BC announces its reopening plans today. And we'll have a report on flood preparations in Calgary, as well as a new service for homeless people in Victoria. But we begin, first of all, at Canadian Forces Base Trenton, Ontario. It was a somber day today. Mourners remembered the 6 members of the Canadian Armed Forces killed when their military helicopter crashed into the Ionian Sea. That was a week ago today. They were taking part in NATO military exercises. Prime Minister Trudeau attended the repatriation service, and like other mourners, they all wore black face masks. In a tweet earlier today, Trudeau said, "As we keep their loved ones in our thoughts, I invite all Canadians to pay their respects from home and watch the ceremony here." Armed Forces members, with the exception of the pallbearers, practiced physical distancing at the ceremony to protect the health of those in attendance. There were no eulogies or speeches. Military officials said the ceremony was a time for quiet reflection. Following the ceremony, a motorcade traveled along a section of Highway 401, known as the Highway of Heroes. They traveled 175 kilometers to Toronto, where the remains were taken for a coroner's examination. Well, something we've talked about before is the effect of the pandemic on mental health. You know, with all of the social isolation and so on, this bears mentioning again. You know, it's Mental Health Week in Canada. Alberta's Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Deena Hinshaw, says the pandemic has had a profound impact on how we feel. And Hinshaw says this is something we should not avoid.
Mental health is still an issue that many find difficult to talk about. This can make it challenging to find support. We often ask people who are struggling to reach out to their family and friends, but reaching out can sometimes feel like one of the hardest things to do. Instead, I challenge all of us today to try to connect proactively with our loved ones and ask how they are feeling, instead of waiting for them to reach out. Thank the people in your circle who uplift you and who improve your mental well-being, and ask how you can be that person for someone else.
Very good advice. You know, governments across Canada have developed resources to help people deal with this. And Eagle News correspondent Raisa Mangilit tells us about the online tools Ontario has to support people's mental health.
Thank you, Tom. Good to see you again. Here is some news from Ontario. On May 4, Ontario officials released a statement acknowledging Mental Health Week, addressing the increased anxiety that many Ontarians are facing due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Ontario has recently announced a $12 million emergency fund for the expansion of online and virtual mental health supports, giving accessible care like the Roadmap to Wellness, a plan to build Ontario's mental health and addiction system, providing Ontarians easier access to standardized, high-quality care in communities across Ontario.
I'm proud to be here today to announce that in partnership with MindBeacon and Morneau Shepell, our government is significantly increasing access to internet-based cognitive behavioral therapy programs for those experiencing heightened anxiety and depression during the COVID-19 pandemic, including our frontline healthcare workers.
This is in response to the growing need for accessible mental health support many Ontarians need due to the virus toll on their daily lives. Here is Premier Ford talking about access to mental health services.
To support those struggling with mental health during these difficult times, our government has invested $12 million into virtual and online mental health supports. And this week, we're rolling out expanded access to those critical supports at no cost to patients. These mental health supports can be accessed safely from home. You can take an assessment and receive support from a therapist. And we know many of our frontline heroes need support too.
The $12 million emergency fund towards mental health during COVID-19 is helping mental health agencies hire and train more staff, as well as purchasing more equipment needed to aid patients and assisting the enhancement of online supports for mental health services. The Premier has addressed particularly the mental health of frontline workers.
They're the ones in the trenches. They're the ones working 12-hour shifts. Their jobs can be stressful and demanding, but every day they get up and they go to work. They help people and save lives. They're absolute heroes. They're superheroes, if you ask me. And I can't thank them enough for everything they do, day in and day out. They take care of us, and we're going to make sure we take care of them too.
Ontario has also established a mental health and addictions COVID-19 response table to aid in lessening the impact of COVID-19 on access to public mental health and addiction services.
I encourage everyone who may be struggling to visit ontario.ca/coronavirus to learn more about the supports that are available. These are difficult times, no question, but together we will get through them. As we do, we are ensuring Ontarians have access to the supports they need when and where they need them.
Premier Doug Ford reassures Ontarians that they are not alone.
It can be isolating not having anyone call or check in. It can seem like you're going through the emotions, trying to get through each day when each day looks the same. It creates stress, anxiety, and depression. So if you're listening to this, my message to you is simple. You're not alone. We will support you. We will get through this together. It's more important than ever to reach out, to check on our seniors, and to make sure we're taking care of each other. During this time of physical distancing, let's continue to stay in touch.
In Toronto, Riza Mangirit, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
There's been a change in Alberta law that allows police to have access to a person's COVID-19 status. Now, there have been reports of people coughing or spitting on frontline workers and then telling them they have COVID-19. Alberta Health Minister Tyler Shandro says now police will have access to the offender's health status in these cases.
Unfortunately, we're hearing that this is something that our first responders in this province are encountering in the course of their duties. We take confidentiality seriously, but we will not tolerate our frontline workers being put at risk in this way as they work to keep the rest of us in this province safe. The information would only be provided if a person exposes a police officer by coughing, spitting, or sneezing on the police officer and claims that they are infected with COVID-19. It would confirm whether or not that an individual has tested positive for COVID-19 in the last 14 days, so that the staff member, the police officer, knows if he or if she needs to self-isolate.
Police chiefs from across the province have applauded the change. Well, I checked my Twitter account this morning and noticed this tweet from Canada's top doc. That's Dr. Theresa Tam. She says so far, 970,000 people have been tested for COVID-19. She says 6% are testing positive. And Tam says over the past week, we've tested more than 25,000 people a day. And the next day, testing should pass that 1 million mark. Here's what the numbers look like now. We're coming up on 63,000 cases across the country, and the virus sadly has claimed just over 4,100 lives. There's a lot of talk about how school classes will look, assuming it's able to resume this fall. You know, to maintain social distancing, schools may have to look at things like staggered schedules. Maybe some students will attend in the morning, the others would attend in the afternoon. Or students could attend on alternate days. And this way, because there's fewer people in the building, the desks could be moved further apart and crowding be reduced in hallways and lunchrooms. But, you know, what kind of personal protective equipment would teachers be required to have? And here's another question. What about older teachers? You know, they're at a higher risk. Would they be reassigned to things like administrative chores while the younger teachers worked with the kids? You know, maybe perhaps high school students would continue their classes online. And then there's the whole issue of physical education, extracurricular activities, after-school sports. How are these going to be done? Or, you know, would they even exist? Lots of questions. We got a few months to get the answers and resolve them. British Columbia announcing today how the province will be reopened. The province's premier, chief medical officer of health, and health minister, they're all in front of reporters right now. I caught part of that news conference a few minutes ago, just before broadcast time. Basically, it's a four-stage plan. Premier John Horgan plans to start it the middle of the month. Takes effect in about 10 days. Nothing will change today. Everything will stay the same. But the middle of May is when the first phase will allow small social gatherings. I think we're talking maybe 10, 15 people. That's it. Elective surgeries will resume. You know, health services, dental offices, chiropractors, doctors, clinics, things like that will be able to reopen. Some of the provincial parks will open for a long weekend. But now this is what the Premier is advising people. Don't go on road trips. Stay home. If you live right beside a provincial park, fine, take it in. But don't be driving across the province or even a couple of 100 kilometers just to get out of town. Stay as close to home as possible. This isn't the time to relax and be complacent. Also to reopen hair salons and restaurants. However, before they can do so, the operators will have to consult with provincial authorities to make sure conditions are safe. He says some people have to... Well, he says people have to just exercise common sense. And what about large gatherings? He says for now, restrictions are here to stay. There will don't even think about anything over 50 people. And that's not in phase 1. That'll be in phase 2. I'll have more details on that on the Eagle News International program in about 3 hours. And we'll have full details on that reopening plan tomorrow on Eagle News Mornings from Canada. I just want to say something quick. It's an interesting note here about BC's Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Bonnie Henry. Did you know she's a published author? Yeah, her first book, it's nonfiction, it's about germs. She's no John Grisham, that's for sure. But her book was titled Soap and Water and Common Sense, The Definitive Guide to Viruses, Bacteria, Parasites, and Diseases, 288 pages. She wrote it about 11 years ago before she became head of the Public Health Office. It was re-released at the end of March and available online. So that's something you might want to check out. When we come back, we'll be telling you about flood preparations in Calgary. We'll be telling you about accommodations for the homeless in Victoria. You're watching Eagle News Mornings from Canada.
Magtatagumpay tayo, salamat. Kung mag-fail tayo, salamat. Ang importante po, sinubukan natin, ginawa natin yung makakaya natin.
Napatunayan ko na yung talent na binigay sa akin ng Diyos, mas may expose pa. Kaya sa mga ibang artist dyan, lalo na sa mga may kapansanan din, mag-explore pa tayo ng ibang bagay tulad nito. Huwag tayong magtago, huwag tayong mahihiya. Gawin natin kung ano yung gusto talaga nating gawin.
This program is presented by SMC Infrastructure, building a better world. Sanmig Sugar-Free White Coffee, puno ng white coffee taste without the sugar, kaya lower calories. Try mo na, Sanmig Sugar-Free White Coffee. Sarap ng white coffee, now sugar-free. Vet-approved Nutri-Chunks, the only premium dog food with active boost for optimum energy and prebiotics that help strengthen immunity. Just like Catherine Bernardo, gawing listo ganado ang fur babies nyo. Listo ganado sa Nutri-Chunks. Co-presented by Kubert, expert in air conditioning and electromechanical. Also engaged in structural, electrical, fire protection, plumbing, and sanitary services. Kubert, your ultimate MEPS and air conditioning solutions. Vita Herbs Philippines Green Coffee. Masarap, mabango, at healthy pa. Canrib Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. New San Jose Builders Incorporated. Unlad Incorporated International, fight against global poverty. In participation with Rain or Shine Elastomeric Waterproofing Paint. Color for protection for your home. Matimco. Matimco is wood. Wood is Matimco. R Square Variables Incorporated, your trusted UPS supplier and UPS maintenance provider in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. CompuZell Computer Services, ID card and lanyard manufacturer. Saisho International Trading Corporation. DN Steel. EMAC UPVC Roof Corporation.
Hey, Gretchen Ho here, and I'm a white coffee lover. Creamy kasi, and very yummy. Pero mas masarap kung hindi nakaka-guilty. Check my new discovery, Sanmig Sugar-Free White Coffee. Puno ng white coffee taste without the sugar, kaya lower calories. Try mo na! Sanmig Sugar-Free White Coffee. Sarap ng white coffee, now sugar-free.
The Bulacan Bulk Water Project is a treatment facility that will provide bulk water to the 24 municipalities of Bulacan to meet the increasing water demand of its residents. Through concessionaire, SMC Infrastructure also initiated the significant improvements of the Manila North Harbor Port, the country's busiest port.
Listo at ganado ang baby ko sa vet-approved Nutri-Chunks with active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat, with essential nutrients to help them grow healthy and happy. Listo, ganado sa Nutri-Chunks.
This is Eagle News Mornings from Canada. I'm Thomas Likeness. Well, first the pandemic and the disruption it caused. Now, the threat of flooding. This is what life is like in Calgary these days. And we turn to Eagle News correspondent J.C. Umel for an update on that situation. J.C. is standing by live with us. Brother, what's happening?
Hey, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing great here, but not. I guess you guys are a little bit nervous down there right now.
Well, usually this time until the 15th of July, this is the time that mostly there are floods or most of the rainfall is dropped here in Calgary. So as the city of Calgary continues to battle this pandemic, there is also another war that the city usually faces every year, and that is flood. The Calgary area has always been at risk of flooding because it is situated where two mountain rivers meet, the Bow and the Elbow rivers. The latest large flood that occurred in Calgary is last 2013 flooding. Calgary was hampered by heavy rainfall and the mountain snowmelt, causing the river levels to quickly rise, which eventually caused flooding in the southern Alberta. Since the 2013 flood, the city of Calgary had taken a lot of steps to reduce the city exposure to flood damage. As flooding can happen anytime here in Calgary, between May 15 and July 15, this is when likely to experience more flooding, as it is historically the time when the city receives the largest rainfall. The city of Calgary's top priorities is the public safety and the protection of critical infrastructure, vital community services, and the environment and the economy. Recently, the city installed new 2.5 meters high steel gates at the Glenmore Dam, which each weigh 10,000 pounds. These gates have doubled the amount of water we can store in the reservoir, so they can able to manage small and moderate level floods on the Elbow River. The gates will also allow increase to the amount of water we can able to store for the summer and winter months when the flow on the Elbow River slows. As flood is always a risk here in Calgary, here are some of the tips to be flood ready to ease the added stress amid the COVID-19 pandemic. To reduce flood damage to your homes and belongings, move valuable items and documents out of your basements. Check your downspouts, pumps, and backflows preventers valve as part of your regular home maintenance schedule. Ask your insurers about flood insurance and review coverage in the event that you need to evacuate your house. Also, if you are finishing your basement, use easy-to-clean materials in the event you are flooded with the river water, groundwater, or sewages. Find also about some sandbags and other temporary barriers. Also, prepare your family in case you need to leave for home quickly. Create an emergency kit. Food and water, toiletries, flashlights, and personal documents and items that you could be able to carry. To help limit the spread of COVID-19, consider these items in your emergency kit also. Hand sanitizers, soap, and cloth face coverings. Currently, here in Calgary, there are 3,957 confirmed cases and 72 deaths. And there are a total of 3,219 recovered cases across Alberta province. From Calgary, Alberta, Canada, this is J.C. Umul, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Tom.
J.C., before you go, I'm wondering how much of the city is at risk?
As per reports and as per what happened before 2013, mostly the southern part and the downtown part is the one that is usually on risk. Just to share with you, Tom, my wife back in 2013 is living in downtown, and she was the first-hand experience what happened during that time, and it's really hard. And they are really struck hard during that time.
I remember that because my former employer, QR77, the radio station down there, they were actually off the air, I think, for about 3 weeks because they couldn't get to their studios. They had no backup plan or anything. That one was really very, very devastating. You know much about the availability of flood insurance down there? I know that's a problem for people in Fort McMurray. They were either not able to afford it or unable to get it. So many of the people that were flooded up there in the past week, they're on the hook for their own damages. Is that the same case down there?
So we recently adjusted our insurance, and that is the first thing that our insurers also will ask to us is, would you like to get this coverage? And I think it doesn't that much yet. It's not that high yet because of all the governments were able to do mitigations and those preparedness that they are doing here in Calgary. So at least I think that's one reason that it's not that high or that not too much yet.
Just one last question. Have you got your emergency kit ready yet?
I have. I do have a first aid kit, and our documents are stored in a waterproof box. It's not a box, but like a suitcase or something like that.
Okay, well, here's hoping you don't have to take any of those precautions, that you don't have to use any of that stuff, and that it stays dry. Thank you for joining us. We're now going to go to Victoria, where the government is opening a 45-bed emergency response center. It's located at the Save on Foods Memorial Center in the city. It's to serve the city's homeless population. And Archie Rose Natividad joins us live now from the West Coast.
Thanks, Tom. In the latest news about COVID-19 in the province capital here in BC, Victoria is opening an emergency response center with a 45-bed capacity set up at the Save on Foods Memorial Center. The Emergency Response Center contains pop-up pods, which includes access to meals, washroom facilities, healthcare services, addictions treatment, and harm reduction, as well as storage for personal belongings. The temporary accommodation site, set up by the provincial government through BC Housing and the GSL Group, provides support to help those in need of temporary shelter, meals, or specialized services. This is the first site of its kind in BC in response to these challenging pandemic times. From April 25th to May 4, 92 people from encampments have moved to safe temporary shelters to protect their health and safety in the overlapping COVID-19 and overdose crisis.
What prompted the government to take this move right now, Archie Rose? Was there any specific incident? What made them decide now's the time?
Well, it was really to provide support for people who had been staying in encampments. For those who were vulnerable and homeless, the encampments had grown into unsafe and dense environments, posing a risk to the health and well-being of these campers, as well as safety challenges.
Now, for those of us who aren't too familiar with the geography of Victoria, and I'm one of them, is this in the inner city? Is this nearby where the tent cities were located, or have they put it in a different location?
Are you speaking in terms of the response center or the encampment?
The response center, yes.
Oh, the response center is actually just a 6-minute drive from the House of Parliament. So the Save On Memorial Center, it is a major hub. It is an arena that always hosts, hockey games or monster truck rallies. So the response center is definitely well equipped and has large capacity to accommodate the vulnerable and those in the community that need help.
You talked about these pop-up pods. What are they?
So these temporary pop-up pods, in partnership with Staples, who put them together, you can quickly assemble these pods. They provide privacy. And the provincial government does have hopes in using these for future emergencies as well.
Thank you for your report, Archie Rose, and we'll be talking to you, I'm sure, in the future on the program. Well, another one of the great programs produced by my colleagues here at ABC is Unfiltered Discussions. We always knew she never had a filter anyway. I'm talking about Frendel Verheeren. She's the host. Join her for discussions about real life, balancing acts. You got to juggle work life and home life. That's Unfiltered Discussions. You can catch it up on YouTube. And that's our program for today. Thank you for watching. On behalf of our Canadian news team, I wish you all good health. Take care of others and take care of yourselves. Stay home, stay safe, and stay tuned to Eagle News for accurate and balanced coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.